Lockdowns. Are they coming? Are they going? Is it important to us that we have lockdowns? Do we need more of them? No. I'll be honest with you. There's a new story that just came out by Breitbart that says lockdowns actually cost us way more than just economics. What did we learn from the lockdowns? It will blow your mind. We'll discuss that story. Also, with that story, what goes along with it is another backing to show what Americans, true common sense Americans, find most important now, pre and post 2020. It'll blow your mind what that is. And then while you were sleeping, do you know how much money we spend, even while your eyes are closed, of taxpayer dollars? Do you know how many people who are on Medicaid that we're trying to get off Medicaid? You know, they say that's going against us. Actually, it's going to blow your mind of how many people are on Medicaid that should not be on Medicaid. We'll discuss that and the money you spend while you're sleeping. Not you personally, but the tax basis. And with taxation comes inflation, and therefore it costs you a lot when you sleep. It'll blow your mind. And then we're going to talk about banking. We're going to talk about money. A bank in New York just made a major change. They're bringing in robots to do your work. You don't believe me? Wait till you see this story. It's unbelievable. And with the government spending money like crazy, our debt going up, the fact that AI is taking our jobs, what are we doing with our own money? What should we be doing with our own money? Let's dive into these stories and a few more. This video starts right now. Hey guys, welcome to themacs. Thank you so very much for being here today. If you are new, please go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell, give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down, but let us know what you think about the content of today's video. Remember, if you are subscribed and every time you comment and give us a thumbs up, you are entered into a giveaway. We do a giveaway each and every month. We did a giveaway yesterday. Go check out that video. Great video, but also talks about the winner and what they win. Hundreds of dollars worth of things that we give away each and every month. Now remember, I have a vlog channel as well, Life with Colby Mack. You actually see my life on the farm, living sustainable, but also in everyday life with my children. Please go check out that vlog. I think that you would really enjoy it. Also, that helps us spread our message across this platform, because if all of a sudden this channel ceases or gets blocked, we have that other channel. So go make sure you are subscribed to it. Now let's jump into the stories, because they are while we're here. I want to talk about the lockdowns first. You know, when you hear about lockdowns coming and you hear about all these stories about this new virus and we hear about stay inside, be alert, all that kind of stuff. I want you to listen to this story. This was actually from Breitbart. It said lockdown fallout. The WHO, which we don't like, I know, but listen to what they said. They said, and this is from a liberal global think tank, so it's probably even worse than this. WHO says nearly 900,000 people a year are dying from loneliness and loss of family during the post-pandemic. Now, this is not talking about loss of family like lost family members. It's the fact that when we as a person lose the chance of having closeness with our family, with our friends, it actually causes more problems. That same, problematic thing of being lonely, either people then try to mask it with medicine or they try to cope in some other facet where they don't have interaction with people because they're scared to death of sicknesses and things like that. So now what we realized is there was more people, and they're saying, listen, there was literally just as many, if not more people that actually died from loneliness, depression, and problems from not being with other individuals during that same period that they so-called said, the 2020 pandemic was actually harming us or killing us. So literally what we realized is people need people. That's why we always talk about community. As a prepper, as someone who lives sustainable, as someone who actually, homeschools, homesteads, it's sometimes hard to relate to other people because we do things so different than most. We don't eat fast food, so it's hard. But what it shows is we need to be around our family. We need to be around people. There's another study that shows, and this was actually shared by Wall Street Mavs. It says 49% of Americans say family is the most important thing. The other says freedom, health, respect, trustworthiness, all that deals with building up community and family. Again, respect, trustworthiness, and kindness and integrity is all parts of things you look for in family and friends anyway. But it says, of the utmost importance, family is 20% higher than anything else on the list. Over riches, over wealth, over, I'll tell you this, and this is a prime example. There's been times where we've done very well, and we've sold something or made something or had a very profitable day. And for the most people that make really good money, they'll tell you the same thing. You may enjoy that for a second. It's a high. You may actually have a time with a vacation. That's a high. There may be times where you do something at your work and you feel successful. It's a high. But ultimately, none of those things give you fulfillment. And so what most people are saying, just like what the study showed, is what we lost in the pandemic was not the fact of our jobs or money or wealth. It was the fact that people, what the lockdowns actually caused, was death based on the fact that we lost interaction with people. We were lonely. We were depressed. And then we mask it with, instead of people and fixing the problem, we mask it with medicine and actually cause more problems. This other study showed that if we would just learn to put ourselves back with our family, to build family and fulfillment. That's like me. I love my home. I love my farm. I love looking out and seeing the sunrise, sunset. I love looking out and seeing all the food that's out in the back. I love making money. That's all great things. I love going to work. I love being healthy. All that's wonderful. But the most important thing is my wife and my children. Of course, as a Christian, God is definitely the most important thing in my life. But what we see is what God has given us, and being a good steward with what God's given us. Family always supersedes everything. Building true community with my family, being, all on the same page, that is the best thing ever. When we're able to do things together, if it be, herding cows, if it be going on vacation, if it be eating around the dinner table. You can ask my wife. I'm a stickler when it comes to eating all together. TV's off. Let's focus on being together. Because what we realized is more people thought the same thing. Literally almost 1 million people a year were dying and still dying because of loneliness, depression from being locked down. I think we're not talking about this enough. We want to be loved. We want to be accepted. I think a lot of times that's what's wrong with most people is they don't find love and affection and acceptance in the family structure. So they lean on vices and problems and medicines and other things. And I think that causes a whole whirlwind of problems. So just think about that today. If you need to make amends with some family members or you need to sometimes spend some time with them, that may be the time to do it. I don't have my grandparents anymore. All our grandparents have passed away. And again, not that that's a huge deal. I'm in our 30s. But one thing I've realized is the brevity of life. We enjoy my family. We enjoy my parents are still alive. Misty's parents are still alive. So we try to enjoy that time. We try to enjoy our time with our children because it leaves so fast. So what I want you to do is, yes, be prepared. Yes, focus on the news. Yes, understand work. Yes, try to make money. Be successful. But ultimately, what the study of loneliness and lockdown show and the study of what people really want in life, it comes back down to family. It comes back down to fulfillment in common sense things, such as spending time with the people we love. That's what it's all about. So let's not lose that. Now let's jump into another story. I think that's it kind of goes downhill from here, guys. so we need to focus on our family, but then when you think of these other problems, it makes you say, okay, I better rely on my family because when I look at this, it makes me depressed. Listen to this. It says, we need to end the way banking is done in the Federal Reserve. This was shared by a financial influencer. It says the U.S. government added $268 million of debt every hour you were asleep last night. He said, think about that for a second. He said millions upon millions upon millions of dollars were added to the debt each hour just when you were sleeping. Now, the problem I have with like the big beautiful bill and some of those other bills and some of the other things that we pass in Congress is the fact that we're just blowing money. Did you know that there's a study out that said 5 million people, now they said that there's 1.4 million illegals still taking Medicaid and government programs. Should not be happening. The Senate really allowed it to happen. There's loopholes for that. Actually, the minor gender affirming care, it's still in a lot of these Medicaid expansions and CHIP bills, all that. The big beautiful bill actually did not solve a lot of those problems. They want to mask it and act like it does, but there's a lot of loopholes in there that still can be used. But one thing that we can't take away from. The big talk now is, well, we're hurting the lower class. We're hurting them because we're taking away Medicaid and we're taking away food stamps for some people that actually need it. There's a study that came out that said 5 million, including 1.4 million illegal immigrants, but 5 million working age people that still have the availability to work. They said based on the surveys and the average that 5 million people that are accepting government grants and programs are able-bodied men who can actually work in the workforce, and they're choosing not to because they're taking government funds. I'm going to be honest with you. I know an individual, you can ask my wife, I believe men are supposed to work. I believe that's a big part of the breakdown of family is men has not led their family correctly. But I digress. Let's keep on going. I know an individual right now that that actually does work in his yard and in his farm and his garden. I have to be very broad here. But they do work outside their home. But he had a little hiccup in his life when he was like 21, 22. And he got put on disability. Now, this gentleman is probably 39, 40, 45, between late 30s, early 40s. This guy has not actually worked like for a job, a W-2, a 1099. He has actually not worked since quote-unquote 21. Now, he works every day. So what he's done is he's milking the system. He's milking the system, so he's getting government handouts, government insurance, government funding, EBT, SNAP, whatever you want to call it, and also a disability check each and every month. Now what he does is he works on the side, waffling and doing little side hustles and working out in his yard, selling garden stuff and food and farm, and then he sells little things on the side, odd ends, and uses it for cash. Now, he is beating the system. That's just one guy. A study just came out that said that 5 million able-bodied men and some women, but basically they were saying healthy people who could actually not use the funds of the government to actually work, and they're choosing still to use funds. There's been a lot of interviews lately of on Twitter and TikTok. You can see them. I mean, all you gotta do is type it in. That there's people that are getting SNAP and EBT and Medicaid that are actually upset with the government with this big beautiful bill because it quote unquote takes a lot of their benefits away. But what they're not telling you is they chose not to marry their live-in companion because it would take away their benefits. They chose to have more kids, not actually because they want the kids, but that it gives them the benefits. There's actually a story that shows that there's a lot of people that are abusing the system. Now, did this big beautiful bill fix all that? No, it didn't. It took a lot away. It took a lot of problems away, but then it still added to the deficit. So there's still problems there. But what I'm saying is people are complaining that they're not getting government handouts. That's the same people that voted for Trump. The same people that voted for Trump, they're now mad at him because they're taking their illegal workers away that are construction workers or farmers. I mean, so this is the problem. Most Americans, and sadly, even though we want better, most Americans are so used to government handouts and government assistance that when we start losing that, we're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We do want to fix America, but you can't take my benefits. If 5 million people are taking Medicaid that should not be taking Medicaid, that are getting benefits from the government, that should not be getting benefits from the government, that is a problem. Especially when I'm working from 4 a.m. milking a cow to go into my normal job at 8 to filming for YouTube to then coming home like last night. I had to move cows and I had to cut fields and bush hog and get ready for hay. Now, everybody doesn't have to do that, but imagine most of you that are working had to come home, drive home, figure out supper, maybe help with homework, maybe cut your grass, maybe do something. And then you got to go to sleep and then do it all over again the next day. What makes those same men and so those same working people upset is the fact that some people are sitting on their couch collecting my tax dollars. That's a problem. So we see 5 million plus another 1.4 million that's getting Medicaid or some kind of government assistance that is part of this illegal immigrant class. Now that's not counting all the extra stuff that we give illegal immigrants. That's people that live here that collect benefits from our government. Free healthcare, free food, and able-bodied people. Millions. And then at the same time, when we go to sleep, we're spending around $260-something million an hour, basically, in our government. We're almost at $40 trillion worth of debt. I don't care which way you turn it, which party you're part of, no matter what. that is not sustainable. That is not sustainable, guys. So we keep going in piles and piles of debt. We have a Congress and Senate who, even though they may cut spending on some things, they're literally still spending on other things. They're still not cutting, and they're still allowing loopholes to go through. So still we're abusing our own system. And I know here's what Trump has said and his administration said. And again, I'm not dogging him out. I actually love Trump, voted for Trump, love what some of these people are doing, like Kennedy and Besant and Howard Lutnick. I like some of these guys. So, but what they're trying to do is basically make our economy grow so much that it assumes the extra spending and also starts paying on our debt. If we went back to pre-pandemic, which is 2019, if we went back to that spending where the government inflated heavily in 2020, if we went back to pre-pandemic spending, did you know that we would actually be in a surplus and we'd be paying on our debt right now? But no, what happens is if we just cut just a tad of government handouts, not only do the Democrats go up in arms, the Rhino Republicans and a lot of the Congress and Senate that left these provisions in, even in the big beautiful bill, even left them in. They can't do it. They can't cut that because they know they'd lose their jobs because people have gotten so used to government handouts. Me and my wife have this discussion all the time. Do I want my tax dollars to go to people that actually need it? Absolutely. I have no problem helping with people. I think that's where the church has failed. I think that's where the family structure has failed. I believe we should be taking care of our own people. I believe that's the truth. It's not the government's job. But I also believe we shouldn't be allowing our government to, school our kids and take care of them and be the new father because we've kind of alienated the father in the homes. There's a whole other video. But what I'm saying is, do I agree that some people need help? Absolutely. And if you need help and you're struggling, I want to help you. I want my tax dollars to help that. I'd rather my tax dollars go to you instead of some foreign country to fight a war or to, fix their problems. I mean, not that I don't want to dig water wells in Africa, but to be honest with you, I'd rather make sure that our children and our families are safe here in America. Now, here's the problem. When people abuse that and then the government allows that, then it's hard to take that away. It's kind of like, for instance, if all of a sudden you start getting all this free stuff. Say, for instance, you have a dad who's giving you everything. And all of a sudden you get mad because he quits giving you everything because he says it's time for you to grow up. Now, there's two ways you could take that. You can get mad at him because he's entitled you for so long, so you believe you're entitled to those free things, or you can take initiative and get up and start doing something. Well, what we've done is allowed government to step in and basically give us all this free stuff to then now we're wondering, well, how would we make it without it? That dependency is actually building a socialist or communist. That's why I think the guy in New York is actually doing so well, because people realize now, because of government spending, because of our bad ways in America, we can't afford homes. We're in debt up to our eyeballs. We're in debt up to student loans. We cannot afford our daily living. So now we need government to step in. So when government steps in and they give us free stuff, we get mad and we say, oh, well, gosh, we can't afford all this. But then if they start cutting your personal government handouts, everybody goes up in arms. So we have 5 million that's on government assistance that are able-bodied men that should be working. We have another 1.4 of illegal immigrants that are taking benefits that they shouldn't be taking. Really, the problem is not them taking the government handouts. They shouldn't be here in the first place. That's not counting the 10 or 20 million that's getting advanced and getting taken care of by the state governments in some of these areas. So we talk about government waste, 260-something million every hour we sleep. The sad thing is, it's not going to stop, and it's probably going to get worse, even under Republicans, because they're scared to death of what could take place. If they cut the benefits off, it probably cuts their job. When we build entitlement programs and we build government funding for everything, it's hard to take it away. And now I think we're going to see the repercussions of that. Now, last thing I want to discuss is, again, our money, because it kind of goes along with that. But first, let's talk about this bank. Listen to this. This is from Tyler Durden from a bank in New York from Zero Hedge. It's an article in Zero Hedge. And you see that little guy, he's in a suit. It's just basically a robot in a suit. And you think it's kind of funny and dystopian. It's not true. Listen to this story. This is next level scary stuff. AI-powered digital workers are deployed now in major banks to work alongside humans. So you don't believe that this will basically take your job. There's another story that Matt Gaetz did that showed that investors and brokerage firms now are getting outpaced and outbeat by AI given stock picks. And so they're basically saying some of these big investment bankers and these financial bankers are going to lose out to AI. Now you start seeing banks, and listen to this, the bank in New York, Mellon, announced that it will deploy dozens of AI intelligence-powered digital employees that operate with humans. Now, they're operating with humans right now because they're going to see how it works. But just like the McDonald's kiosk, eventually it's going to be without humans, and AI will basically take over. It's similar to human employees. The digital workers will have direct managers, and they report autonomously to coding and payment instructions, and they're validated by the employee. But here's the risk. If we see that this works, we will start seeing more AI-capable employees being more impactful than humans. If you remember, I shared a story in a BMW plant. I think it was in Kentucky or Tennessee, I can't remember. But basically, they were taking and replacing humans with BMW, with AI robots, and we did a video on it and all. And it showed that literally they were outworking humans, and there was no, set salary. There wasn't a worry that they were working over 8 or 10 or 12 hours a day. There was no worry in all that because the robot didn't need benefits. Now, this is a problem. What we've done is we've built a situation to where now it's going to take away possibly funds from Americans because the jobs are now getting lost in investment banking, in banking in general. Remember the truck driving situation. Did you know last week there was a guy bought one of the robo-taxis from Tesla? They bought the robo-taxi from Tesla online. It literally drove itself from the plant to the guy's location. No human interaction whatsoever was needed. And the robo-taxi drove straight to the owner without any intervention of humans. Now the last story, remember that entitlement story we were just talking about with Medicaid expansion, government expansion? It comes to a point where what we're doing is with this AI, we're actually building a world that is going to need dependency on the government to take care of us. Let's go back to what the WHO used to say. Let's go back to listen to what the WEF used to say. Yuval Harari used to say this, which is, again, even though we think that the World Economic Forum has not gotten power, the reset and the plan for Agenda 2030 is still taking place. It's just got a different face on it. But it's still in the works, because listen to this. He said if we can keep people fat, lazy, over-medicated, drugged, then we can control and they'll depend on the governments or big business. That's literally a paraphrase of what he said. That's exactly what's taking place. We see that 5 million people that are able-bodied that should be working is on Medicaid now. We see that we're taking care of tens of millions of people that are legal immigrants that are here that should not be here. But you know what came out? They said the reason that Democrats are so wanting the illegal immigrants here so bad is because they're counted in the census. It said that if the illegal immigrants were not able to be counted in the census, that most Democrats would probably push back and not really care if they're here or not. You know why? Because it said that if, and this is just studies now, but it showed that if we did not count the illegal immigrants in the census, that the Republicans could pick up maybe 15 to 20 extra seats across America, especially in places like California and other liberal hubs. It showed that this nation actually is very conservative and based on the consensus of the people. And it says if the census would not include illegal immigrants and only included true American citizens, it says it would actually prove the point that America truly is a conservative nation. But because the way that we do with the census is we count the population even includes illegal immigrants, it makes where Republicans lose out certain seats, Democrats get those seats, Democrats make decisions in Congress, and therefore it looks like there's a battle of a 50-50. You know, Democrats, Republicans, and they're all tied together. But basically it's like it's a close tie in America. We're divided on a lot. Truth be told, if we got rid of some of these people like we should, and again, to a point where they can go back to their countries. Get here, if they come legally, that's a different story, but if they're coming illegally, it said that 15 to 20 seats would be picked up in red districts. They would become red districts over blue. You know how much that would change in America? You know there's things that we could actually probably get passed that's even cleaner and better. Maybe some fiscal responsibility. But we're not. And now that we see AI coming alongside and taking bank jobs, taking investment jobs, taking trucking jobs, taking car jobs, it says within the next 5 years, clerks, operational help like 24-hour support on different websites, on different calls, customer support, 1-800 call centers, all that kind of stuff will all be AI driven. They said it could take away from 15 to 20 million people having jobs. Now think about that for a second. More people lose jobs, what happens? More people need government assistance. More that government gets assistance, the more taxation and inflation happens to the rest of the Americans. The more government grows, the bigger government grows. What we realized is even Trump and Elon could not cut the budgets. Doge could not actually cut funding. We still spent way more money in this big, beautiful bill. Wasn't as bad as Democrats, but it's still a spending bill. Do you see how this is a trajectory with a downhill slope? Now let's go back to the very first point I made. What did lockdowns cause? Depression and loneliness. The family structure was the only thing that people wanted the most. It gave them the most fulfillment. Now spiritually, again, we would say you need to spiritually prep and focus on God. But if we would build the family structure back up to where the man was the head of the household, he led his family correctly, he took care of them and worked hard, I believe we would fix a lot of these problems. Down to the money issue, down to the raising our children right. Like my children don't even know what some of these big fights and these big issues are because they're not on TikTok, they're not on social media, they're not in school. So they don't see a lot of that jargon and that garbage, and they're not indoctrinated. If we would raise our families better, I believe we'd fix a lot of these problems, because then a lot of this stuff like the, change in genders and the government taking care of me, people would wake up and see that's all just so frivolous. I mean, nobody thinks like that. But the more we allow our government to raise our children, the more we allow fathers not to actually be the fathers, the more we allow our family to rely on the government for everything, the more we will be told what to do and believe whatever they tell us. AI's taking our jobs, government's helping fulfill the needs, we're doing just what you've all already wanted. Becoming fat, lazy, completely dependent on the government, fully drugged in. Because remember, the lockdowns, people didn't rely back on families, they went to medicine. And we realized the loneliness and depression killed almost 1 million people a year since 2020. Pay attention to these stories, they all go together. But it all comes back to family. You fix your family, you're going to fix a lot of these other issues. Is it the end-all be-all? Maybe not. But it will sure make a difference in a majority of Americans' lives. Fixing the family first. Guys, let me know your thoughts on today's video. God bless.